All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian Farmhertz, and it is Tuesday, the 27th, and pretty decent whipsaw move today. I'll go over the intraday price action for the day. I'm just looking at a couple names that came out and reported earnings. We went over these in the trading room just shortly ago, but NTNX. It looks like, by way of how these names are reacting, NTNX, which had decent numbers, they are still reporting a loss, but a little bit better than expected. And then next, Salesforce, which is the big guy. Salesforce is kind of an interesting report every quarter. You could see that it's now up to 133. Salesforce normally doesn't move that much for earnings, and the report that they came out with was, I don't know. I think if they came out with this a couple weeks ago and maybe the price was up where it was a couple weeks ago, it probably would have fallen on earnings. But it just shows you that I think the sentiment has changed a little bit. It's not as bad as it was. I think it's a little bit of a better tape right now because their quarter, they kind of seem to do this. If you follow Salesforce from quarter to quarter, they seem to report a good quarter every number, and they kind of lowball their guidance. You'll notice that some companies do this every quarter. They come out and they say that their guidance is going to be a little bit lower than expected, so they can just make it an easier bar to jump over. That's what I've noticed for what Salesforce does every quarter. But you can see the headline here meets full year revenue forecast meets estimates. And then if you look, we put all these so that you kind of get a glimpse of all these. But you could see that they were implying a 6.6% move. Again, this happens every time for Salesforce. It's always a very rich move that they're implying, and normally they don't move too much. But I think it's a little bit different this time around because of where Salesforce has been. So where are we up to? 134 right now as we're ticking up. So this is good. I think this is good. This is good. Even if you did not trade Salesforce, as I didn't, I was more concerned with a quarter that might happen for who was it? Nvidia that reported a couple weeks ago. So even though they've been down a lot, I kind of just wanted to see how it was going to play out. We'll see how they report. And again, they normally don't move this much, so I'm happy. So I think they're going to be, lo and behold, they're probably going to be pushing back to that 200-day moving average. But again, like I said, this should be good for the group. The pin action, yeah, it looks like we're headed right to the 200-day moving average in Salesforce. But I think the pin action will be good for the group, for the software application enterprise software group, for this to go back up. But son of a gun, right up to that 200-day moving average, it looks like we're headed to. All right, so tomorrow we get some more interesting reports out. I think V reports after the close tomorrow. Burlington also reports. So what kind of data did we get today? Man, it's a lot of trade headlines, right? Just like we kind of thought going into this. So one of the things that I said in yesterday's video was, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of chop around a bit. We actually finished up 55 basis points, and that's why you come in every day. You kind of come in and assess and kind of see what's going on, read the tape a bit, and because sometimes if you just say, hey, I'm going to wait until all the news is out, sometimes there's moves that happen beforehand, right? Price always seems to know a little bit. And another thing that I'll come back to and share with you is just the amount of money that has gone off to the sidelines. I've been talking about that every day till I'm blue in the face, but the amount of money that keeps going into these short-term Treasury ETFs, SHI, BIL, which is Treasury bills, has been crazy, a crazy amount. So if you haven't seen that, you can view my weekend video on that where I talked about just the biggest money I've ever seen go into short-term Treasury bonds. So people are really spooked. So sometimes that leads to market opportunities, right? So there's definitely some nice movers on the day. I'll start with AMD, finished up 4.8%, right? So we got some things that are building, and it's kind of getting exciting, right? Now that we've kind of settled in a little bit, things are starting to show a little bit more opportunities. You got the VIX now down below 20. We're touching the 18 handle a little bit. We didn't close in the 18 handle, but still, we're ducking below 20. So, if this trickles a little bit lower, I think the market's going to feel a little bit better too. So that's VIX, VXN. So I'm talking about the good things. I'll talk about the bad too, because not everything is a rosy picture today. VXN, which is the VIX for the Qs, also coming in, still has more work to do to the downside. RVX, which is the VIX for the IWM. Because again, remember the VIX is just measures the SPX volatility or short-term pricing of options. It doesn't measure anything else. It doesn't measure other stocks. So we do take a look at these. That. So looking at the S&P again, we're making progress. We're bouncing, right? There's going to be overhead resistance. You're going to hear that a lot. But first things first, we had to get through and bounce a little bit. So, we are bouncing pretty nicely. We're going to come upon resistance, but I would just kind of take this one day at a time, and I'm not going to overanalyze the S&P chart because sometimes it'll keep you out of trades. But yeah, we retook the 5 day. The next thing that we're going to need to do is retake this on the next list. But the short-term moving average, the 5, the squiggly line that I've got going on here, that has been retaken. I'll go to the Qs. The Qs made a little bit more progress too. We're going to be coming into, so just like S&P, we've retaken the 5-period exponential moving average. We're going to have to go further here. And that's basically this market right now is giving us some trading opportunities. You don't have to go home with a whole bunch of trades. The way that the market is moving on a day-to-day basis. I mentioned in a couple of it. I think I said in the midday video, and we talked about pre-market. Right now this is a market I think to day trade a little bit, and to be picky and choosy with your setups. So let's go right to before I get to single stocks. What didn't participate today, which was kind of interesting, IWM, small caps underperformed, down 80 basis points. So as I mentioned, was not a complete rosy picture. Biotechs did not participate at all today. They were down 2.4%, so we'll keep an eye on them tomorrow. Also, the steel names are getting absolutely smoked. We talked about this last week. I think on Friday, I mentioned that the SLX ETF, that's the steel ETF. So you could see the volume in here too, pretty high volume. But this is broken down. And if you look at things like U.S. Steel, massive volume today on the breakdown. Where is there support for this? Well, you kind of have to look at the weekly chart. I mean, I'm not really a fan of playing these right now. I think they're too sensitive. And I don't know enough. I don't know enough about everything that's going on in steel. Iron ore has been moving down. There's been a couple of headlines that I've been listening to from China. The iron ore prices have really been accelerating to the downside the last couple days. So U.S. Steel does have a little bit further. It has 2207 before it finds support. But this whole group, we saw a lot of put buying in this. AK Steel saw a lot of put buying as well. So I mentioned we'll talk about the ugly. So this is the ugly. This is the weekly chart. No support into $2. Keep in mind this is a $3 stock. But yeah, breakdown here maybe looks like a hammer bar for the day, but I don't know. I wouldn't. It does not look. It does not look good to me in this group. What else? There's a couple other things that were down. The defense names were also down a lot today. So that was the third thing that I saw that looked peculiar to me. ITA, and it looked like the whole group was a little bit of a mess. I traded a little bit of Raytheon. I view this as a pretty strong company. My timing isn't always this good, but I bought this thing on the first green bar on this. I just thought it was down too much, and buyers usually come back into this, so it was a nice little scalp. So here's what this is what I mentioned for day trading. You could pick up on these things if you're observant. But when the whole group gets smashed, I'll look at Raytheon because Raytheon I think is a pretty quality company in the space. Sticking with the aerospace group, Boeing. So a name to watch for tomorrow. I like to look at again sometimes considering that some of these names have been in a big decline, like on the 5-minute bar. You could see it's trying. It's above the value areas. Let's see what it does for tomorrow. I put on a little bit of a call spread for small trade. it still has to get through the value area for the 1 hour, but it does look like it's finding it's basing after this big nasty candle. This was what, last week, was it? Last Tuesday. Yeah, it seems like it's starting to come alive a little bit, right? And then so it's kind of the opposite. Usually you like to start with the long-term charts and look in, but I think for when you have these big declines like this, you want to take a look. And again, I'm not looking for like a move all the way back in here. Just looking for a little bit of a rebound for Boeing. So that's what's going on in that space. But yeah, those were the three areas to the downside. And if you look at the S&P, only up 34 basis points, or SPY was only up 34 basis points, and that's why. Again, you had a lot of different parts moving around. Let me go to the big guy, Apple, because Apple, I think, is starting to Apple and Netflix. I want to talk a little bit about today, but Apple did put in a hammer bar yesterday. If you're waiting for some confirmation, I like to shoot over again to the hourly bar and the 5 minute bar. 5 minute bar, I had an alert set all day on Apple. It just never triggered. So that's sometimes what trading is all about, right? Sometimes we look, we set an alert, we kind of wait for a setup. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. However, I do think it's in doing. I think the worst is behind it. The level that I was looking at today for Apple, which did not trigger, was basically 175. The value areas were really nice. Again, sometimes having your indicators available to you so that they keep you out of the chop, where you don't lose money, especially in options, right? If you buy an option that's basically a short-term option, and the stock doesn't do anything, you lose. So you lose. But I think this is setting up. So I would keep an eye on this one. I'm watching Boeing, Apple. Netflix woke up today. Even though, what's his name, Hastings, there was this insider sale. But this thing got going. It checked back. And it even gave another opportunity to day trade today. So real nice. This was a name that I talked about, I think, in last night's video, is just not doing anything. When the FANG stocks were doing pretty good. So this one's trying to turn the corner as well. And again, you don't have to necessarily go for a gigantic move here. Even a move back to the 20-day moving average is about 20 points ahead. So, keep things. What I'm basically trying to do right now is with this market and the way it changes with these headlines that we see every other hour, is just basically look for singles and doubles, and then if you can, kind of let that last piece try to run. But I think now, especially if you're trading options, right? Options, you get plenty of leverage. I don't need to be trying to hit home runs right now in this market. If I get one, that's great, but I'm happy just kind of scalping and making some nice money by doing it that way. A couple other names I saw. Let's go to a couple other perky names today. Look at this. I will give credit where credit is due. Mr. I think his Twitter handle. I don't know him other than exchanging Twitter tweets on Twitter. So weird, the Twitter world. But he pointed this out yesterday in a chart that sorry, my volume was down low. Mentioned this setup yesterday. This is and what's nice about this is it's a $13 stock. You don't have to go out and buy options in this one. You just buy the stock. Because of course the implied volatility is super high in these types of names. But this is a solar name, and take a look at what it did. I had to chase a little bit because I missed the first opening move, but I like the setup that he posted yesterday. So very nice, and I like and there's a VPOC up here which I would target for the remaining balance of my shares, 1521. Another one that I'm looking at is going back into the software space. Well, I'll come back to it because it's SE. Let's see where this finished for the day. Another name right around $13 again, which I like. I like these names right now because you don't have to. I am favoring playing a little bit more in stock right now than I am because of these whippy moves, and I do. My view right now is that we may be a sideways market for a little bit. So there's no decay when you buy stock, right? There's no theta decay. There's no. You don't have to worry about maturity. But this C Limited, this is another application software name, breaking the 50-day moving average, breaking the 200-day moving average, right? So I think that is constructive. That's another name for my watch list tomorrow. We'll go to another big guy, Amazon. It did close in value for the oops. It did close. There we go. It did close in value for the day. So it's had a hell of since this VPOC was taken out. It's had a hell of a bounce. It's gone from 1450 to 1580. So you've got a level of support that's right here. If you want to try a trade 1569, or if you want to wait till the 20 period moving average is also taken back, you could also wait for that. But there is a MACD crossover forming as well. One name that was a little disappointing to me, I talk about BABA. I've been talking about BABA almost every day now for a week because I've got a trade on it. I still finished up on the day, up 30 basis points, so that's not bad. It's moving in the right direction. So I view that as a positive. So that's my name that I'm playing. I think these reports will be interesting tomorrow, WB and Sina reports. I think I'm going to say one of these might pop. That's my own prediction, and as I say in every video, these are videos for information purposes only. I'm not giving recommendations or anything like that, but I think one of these names may be due to pop. WB, they both report in the overnight session. We'll see. We'll see if they change trend. How exciting would that be after a big decline? It has support in here. Option activity for the day, I think I covered a couple names. This I saw a little bit of calls today. This is another momentum name that I think is interesting. Dollar General saw calls today. I tried playing this for a day trade. Nothing really was doing, but like I always say, option activity for me just gives me an idea. I'm not looking to put a stake in the ground every time I see option activity, because a lot of the option activity that we see is wrong. So for me, it's just an idea. Now they do report earnings, which may be why they bought calls, because a little bit of puts went up. But I like this chart. It's been very methodical. Moves up, comes in, so on and so forth, and it's on a trough right now. Dollar General, and that's been a better retail name in the last couple of years. A few other names to talk about. I think I mentioned AMD already. Microsoft, a lot of weekly calls bought. So second day in a row that we're seeing some call buying in Microsoft. PVH, a lot of smaller stuff. BWA, interesting. There's a couple of the auto names, BWA and Lear, which I don't know why I don't have it on here, but Lear also saw some calls. The Diamonds also saw a little bit of calls today, DIA. So there's some things, there's more and more things to kind of look at as the VIX is settling in and as the market's settling. The Diamonds kind of look like a lot of things. They also retook the 5-day moving average. All right, so the video is about 18 minutes. That's as far as I like to go for that one. Thanks for watching tonight's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.